People in Iran burn the statues of Baal, and somehow Israel is offended by it. And since I'm a certified badass, I'm going to tell you exactly what it means, because they're trying to make it out as something very simplified. They're not telling you why. Why did Israel feel offended that they were burning Baal? How does Baal, the deity, the Canaanite Mesopotamian deity, have anything to do with Israel? That is part of the Yahweh tribe, the chosen of God, right? What if I told you you've been taught everything wrong? Everything you've been taught in the Bible was almost a lie. Between the Old Testament and the New Testament and then the King James version of it, you have been manipulated and lied to so many times you're not even aware. So let me tell you why it's a big deal that Israel got offended and felt touched because the Iranians burned that statue. And I'm going to tell you what it means. Let's go. If someone's burning a statue of what they describe as a demonic entity, and I'm Netanyahu, I really don't care. But they felt called in cause. Why? And this is going to out them on how they have a satanic deity. So first of all, who is Baal? Baal isn't a name. It isn't a person. It is a title. Guess what it means? Lord. So now when Erica Kirk keeps on saying, the Lord is watching us, our Lord is just, our Lord will punish you. Which Lord are y'all talking about? Because the way I know it, Baal was the OG Lord. Baal was worshipped across Canaan and Phoenicia. He was a storm god, a thunder and lightning deity, a fertility bringer, a king figure who defeats chaos. Now, if you know the Anunnaki stories, Baal is actually Marduk. Marduk, Enki's son. Enki is the benevolent creator god, the god of wisdom, the god of water, the engineer. The deity that decided to save Noah when the flood was coming. Marduk is Enki's son. Now, Marduk wanted to usurp the power for himself at one point because he believed that it was his right of succession. It was his time to rule. Also because his father, Enki, he was supposed to be the ruler of Earth. Then his other half-brother Enlil came, and then there was the rule of succession, the rule of the seed. Basically, this King Anu had all of these sons. His firstborn son, that technically should have been his heir, was Enki, but he was born from a concubine. Then his other son, Enlil, was the son of his half-sister, therefore the law of the seed giving him more righteousness. And because of an ancient queen on Nibiru, this is when they modified the succession rules. Marduk was fixated that his father Enki should have been the heir because he was the firstborn. So in his mind, it was his time. And he went against everyone. Cousins, uncle, father, grandfather, everybody. He wanted to take the power for himself. And the thing is this, he was very much loved by the people. Now here's the confusion. And here's the twist. The name Baal is a title. It means Lord. So when Iran burns the statue of Baal, in their mind, they are burning the satanic deity that rules the Western world and rules Israel. Up until now, we were told that God is Yahweh, right? But if he's Yahweh, that would make him Marduk's uncle. So how does burning Marduk, that actually was defeated by his entire family, they had to unite and go against him to take their power back because everybody wanted Baal as to be the God, the one true God. They're tricking us into thinking that it's Yahweh. That would be Enlil. And then other people say that it's Enki. Then I came out and I said, well, I think it's a mix of both of them. The Bible is taking two people and mixing them into one. But no, I was wrong. The Bible is getting three people and mixing them into one. The God of the Bible is a combo of Marduk, Enki, Enlil, and I'm going to put a little bit of a dash of Anu in there because based on the original stories, if you break them down, those are the stories that the Bible plagiarized and took for their own, changed it around, mixed people together, dumbed them down, cut them down a bit. It's a whole mess. So I'm not saying that the Bible isn't real, and I'm not saying that religions are real. What I'm saying is that they were modified by humans, written down by humans, and the things could be twisted around. What better way to manipulate the world than to make you think that God is the devil and the devil is God? You know what I mean? Let's get back to Mesopotamia. Baal Marduk was king of gods, associated with storms and authority, the slayer of chaos, the slayer of the dragon Tiamat. He even took the name of Nibiru for himself. He was the political god of an empire. So the title Baal, he actually gets it when it's in the time of Akkadia. In the Akkadian language, it means Lord, and that's what they called him. So we have Baal, B-A-A-L, equals Lord, and then we have B-A-L, Baal, that also means Lord in ancient Sumerian. Basically, it's the same title in different languages spelled in different ways, but it's the same word. Marduk becomes dominant in Babylon in the 18th century BCE, while Ugaritic Baal texts flourish from 1400 to 1200 BCE. The Phoenician Baal worship spreads widely in the first millennia BCE. So with this chronology that is overlapping, we prove that Baal, Lord, is actually Marduk. So if you were thinking that the Old Testament and the Jewish religion was based on worshiping Enlil, Yahweh, I think we're talking about Marduk now. Or at least it's coming out that they mixed all these people together to make it look like somebody else. You know what I mean? Culturally, Mesopotamia influenced heavily on the Levant. There were trade routes that ran constantly between Babylon, Assyria, Canaan, and Phoenicia. To explain it in layman's terms, the Anunnaki bloodline, this framework, these are all separate regional deities that later became synchronized into one, okay? So Baal functions as Marduk, but Baal is the word Lord. And if you hear about Baal Hadad, that's also the same guy. So even if these are different cultures, the ideology is exactly the same and it aligns through these cultures. And here is the aha moment. Later on, Hebrew text demonized Baal. Then later on, Beelzebub appears. We have Bel, Baal, Beel, and the linguistic evolution is not random. Basically, if Marduk became Baal in Babylon and Bel becomes Baal in the Levant, this pattern thread is consistent. Then when we go to research on Wikipedia, they will even tell you that Baal is a title meaning owner or lord. Now the news is going to tell you that when Iran and pro-Iran groups symbolically burned a statue of Baal, they are not making a precise theological claim. It's political symbolism? I don't think so. Because if they're associating Baal, the demonic entity, with Israel, then they're saying that Israel and America are satanic because they worship Baal. And remember, Canaan is the ancient land of Israel, the Canaanites. So this is exactly the place in the world where they were doing the sacrifices of children to Baal. Remember the story about Abraham, that God told him to sacrifice his firstborn son, and then before the exact moment he went to do it, God stopped him and like, no, I just wanted to see if you were going to do it. Basically, Baal is the ancient symbol of Israeli paganism. Historically, the early Israelians lived as Canaanites. Archaeology shows that they shared even the same language. They share the same culture and they share the same religious symbols. It's not a coincidence. So before Israel developed as a distinct identity, and by Israel we're not talking about the state, we're talking about the Jacob and becoming Israel, and I told you the story already, and then his sons became the 12 tribes of Israel. So it was a covenant. Here comes the Hebrew Bible. It repeatedly condemns Baal worship. That tells you something important. You do not warn people against a god unless people are actually worshiping him. So yes, early Israelites were likely exposed to some type of participation in the Baal worship. Here's the thing, Baal was never the god of Israel. At least not in the biblical tradition, the official version. The biblical writers, they present Yahweh as distinct and in opposition of Baal. So this is when the shift occurs. First, the storm god was Enlil, Yahweh. And here we have the title of El, then it becomes Baal, and then it becomes Ahad. Then it becomes Adon. This is the time where the Israelites, they all focus around Yahweh now. He is the supreme God, the only God. But at the time, there were many, and this is when you hear people like Billy Carson saying, in the Bible, they say God, but it should be with an S plural. Yeah. So the competing deities like Baal, at that point, become demons. They are demonized. They are the false gods. But this is just because the Hebrew religion decided that. In later Jewish and Christian theology, former rival gods are reframed as demons. So it's really easy to see where all of this started. The Israelites decided that all other deities were demons. They are the ones that decided that Lamashtu, Inanna, Isis, Ishtar, that they were demons, that Lilith was a demon. They decided it. They decided that everybody that was in competition with their Lord would now become a demon. And it looks a little bit like how we demonize people now when they're competing. So Baal, and Yahweh represent competing expressions of authority within the same religious power struggle. When one priesthood wins, the other god becomes the villain, and this is exactly what happened. But historically speaking, Baal was a Canaanite storm god. Yahweh becomes the national god of Israel. Later writers portray Baal as the demon god, and not as the original biblical god that was rebranded. So when they burn the Baal statue in Iran, it's because they are literally telling the Hebrews, that's your God, we're burning him, and they call it demonic. While on the other hand, you have the Hebrews that, I don't know if they tricked everybody into thinking that their God was Yahweh, but why are they taking offense to Baal being burned if their deity is Yahweh? See what I mean? So is there truth to this, to the Muslims calling Israel the little Satan and the United States the big Satan? Is it because of the worship of Baal? Remember Putin when he said that the West is run by satanic, pedos? This is what he meant. Basically, everybody's outing that there is no worship of Yahweh, and who you're worshiping is the Lord, and the Lord is Marduk. It is Baal. And if there wasn't any truth to this, then why did Israel take an offense and say that they are declaring war on Israel because they burned the statue of Baal? Makes no sense unless this is all true. As usual, let me know what you think in the comments. Mind blown.